So moving on in the draft to the 21st selection, the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock. Interior offensive line is a big need for the Bengals going into this draft. Finding a center or a guard, I think, is very key on day one or day two in this draft going forward. They could also get faster at the linebacker position and just younger in general in the secondary, as they're relying on veterans as of now to kind of fill up those starting spots. They may need guys to go in and replace those guys going forward. So with the 21st pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, I had the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Will Hernandez, offensive guard out of UTEP. Hernandez is a guy that can step in right away at right guard and be an impact player. They already have a pretty solid left guard in Bowling, who was their best offensive lineman last year. The offensive line now, when you put in the addition of Cody Glenn at left tackle, it is now immensely improved from the year before. This will allow more time for Andy Dalton in the passing game and more running lanes for Joe Mixon to run through. So I think selecting Will Hernandez here would be a very ideal pick for the Bengals and giving them a really good offensive line, which is just the complete opposite of last year, where they had one of the worst offensive lines in all of football. Moving on to the 22nd pick, the New York Giants are on the clock again as a result of their trade with the Buffalo Bills. And the Giants already got a shutdown cornerback for them. And really, when I look at the quarterback's position, the top 5 quarterbacks are off the board. So they're no longer in this position here where they can reach for a quarterback in the first round to eventually replace Eli Manning. They can improve their interior offensive line here in this spot, or go for a running back, or maybe get more younger defensive players to fit their new scheme. So with the 22nd pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, I had the New York Giants selecting Darius Geis, running back out of LSU. The Giants need to add a physical running back presence to take pressure off of Eli Manning. They signed John Stewart in the offseason, but he's definitely not a long-term option at the position of running back. Geis is a bruising running back with potential to be a game-changing back right away in the NFL. The Giants can improve their interior line here as well, but I think they'll like to do that later in the draft when the value of the player better fits the pick that they have going further into day 2 of the draft. So moving on to 23, the Seattle Seahawks are now on the clock after their trade with the Patriots that I have mocked here. And when I look at the Seahawks here, there are needs all across the board for them. It really is a mess for Seattle here in terms of what they need. The defense is getting old, and there just needs at every single spot in the secondary, whether it be getting new starters or more depth. They just need an influx of new, younger talent in the secondary overall. There's also need to get more playmakers up front in their defense, as Michael Bennett left, Sheldon Richardson left. We're not really sure really who's going to be pass rusher for them on the edge there. There's just a lot of big needs on this defense overall. That was one of the best in the league. It's starting to show some cracks a little bit. I think their biggest need, however, is on the offensive line, where Russell Wilson, he still has to run for his life on every single play. He showed that last year, and you can't afford to have him get injured because right now he is the Seattle Seahawks at this point with the Legion of Boom no longer in existence. So they need to do whatever they can to protect him. So with the 23rd pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, I had the Seattle Seahawks selecting Mike McGlinchey, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Seattle needs to add protection for their franchise quarterback in Russell Wilson. Obviously, McGlinchey is a guy that's more natural at right tackle, like I said in my offensive tackle preview video. But he's a guy that can step in right away as a very solid prospect. He improves their run blocking and their pass protection right off the bat at right tackle. And I think he'll be a guy that can add some much-needed stability at the offensive line position because they've been, cycling through a whole different new guys every single week throughout the course of the last few seasons, it seems like, just trying to find the right combination. And McGlinchey is a guy that I think will just be a very solid player for them. Maybe not a Pro Bowler at the next level, but he's a guy that they will rely on for a very long time, I think, at right tackle. So I think that would be a very smart pick for the Seattle Seahawks. And number 24, the Carolina Panthers are now on the clock. And the Panthers, they added a wide receiver in a trade with the Eagles to get Torrey Smith in the offseason. And they still have a very strong front seven overall. Where the Panthers need to get better at and younger at is in the secondary and also get better along the offensive line. If they're going to keep pace with some of the teams in the NFC in terms of like the Rams, the Eagles, all the teams in their division, that are starting to rise up and be absolute powerhouses. They need to get better at those spots, I think, if they're going to keep pace. So where I think the Panthers are going to go at the 24th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, I think they will select Jair Alexander, cornerback out of Louisville. Alexander fills a need at the cornerback position for the Panthers. I didn't talk about him in my defensive back preview because he didn't fit my top 5 defensive backs, but he was right outside that, definitely right on the outside. It was between him and Josh Jackson for the number 5 spot. I think the Panthers will be a little bit more intrigued by Alexander here because he adds a much-needed playmaking presence and athletic presence to the back end of their defense, which is in need of some juice. And this is especially important when you consider the division they play in, where you have Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Jameis Winston all slinging the ball around in that division at quarterback. They need some athletic guys that can cover their wide receivers overall. So that's why I think they'll go with Alexander here at the 24th pick in the draft. Moving on to the 25th pick, the Tennessee Titans are now on the clock. I think that the Tennessee Titans, for them, getting a pass rusher will be the main key for them, whether it's a guy in the interior defensive line or maybe an edge guy at outside linebacker. This is a defense desperate for another playmaker to kind of fill out this defense overall. The Titans, when looking at their offense, they're also set at offensive tackle, but they may need to get some more depth along their interior, I think, going forward. And also, to help out Marcus Mariota, they also need more playmakers as well. So I think they can address that later in the draft, but it could also be a need for them in the first round. But with the 25th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Lorenzo Carter, outside linebacker out of Georgia. Carter is a versatile, athletic edge prospect that new head coach Mike Vrabel will absolutely love to add to his defense. The Titans are desperate for any pass rush that they can get, and Carter is a player with a very high ceiling, even though he's a little bit raw right now. But getting coached up by a great coach in Vrabel on defense, and his potential may be unlocked here in Tennessee. So moving on to 26th, the Atlanta Falcons are now on the clock. When I look at the Falcons' needs, there aren't really too many needs for this team going forward because it is a pretty loaded roster overall. The biggest need for them is maybe an interior pass rusher to replace Dontari Poe, who left in free agency. And also adding another playmaker, I think, to take pressure off of Julio Jones and just add more depth to their offensive line in general, because you can never have too much depth, I think, there would help this team as well. So it's a 26th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. The Atlanta Falcons are going to pick Maurice Hurst, defensive tackle out of Michigan. The Falcons get much-needed interior pass rusher here with the selection of Hurst. Hurst is a bit undersized and may not be a perfect fit in their scheme, but pass rush is so vital in the NFL, especially in the NFC with how loaded it is at quarterback, that the Falcons will need to take a chance on Hurst's disruptive potential in the interior to complement guys like Vic Beasley on the outside going forward. So I think the Falcons, it would be a very smart decision to pick a guy like Maurice Hurst for their defense. So moving on to the 27th pick, I have another trade. With the Cleveland Browns moving up to the 27th pick, the Saints originally holding the pick, they're going to get the Browns' second-round pick at number 33 selection and a fourth-round pick from the Cleveland Browns. With really no needs at any particular spot for the Saints, they just need to add more depth in general to this team. So I think they'll be more than willing to trade out of the first round to get additional picks going forward. With the Browns, they're looking to get another impact player with the insurance that they can have another high second-round pick at the 35 spot. So they can take a chance here and try and get another impact player in the first round going forward in this draft. So with the 27th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns are going to select Josh Jackson, cornerback out of Iowa. I have Oliver rated a little bit higher than Josh Jackson, but the Browns will be enticed by Jackson's playmaking ability in the secondary and the ability to produce turnovers for this defense. Jackson is a very good fit in his zone scheme with the ability to be a plus press coverage player at the next level with some proper coaching. And I think with his just ability to create turnovers, he'll be a perfect fit for Greg Williams' aggressive 4-3 system where he can benefit off of Myles Garrett and Bradley Chubb applying pressure off the edges. Quarterbacks are going to rush a lot of throws, and with his ability to anticipate and go get the ball in the air, that could create a lot of opportunities for interceptions with Josh Jackson going to the Cleveland Browns. So moving on to number 28, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. The Steelers need to desperately upgrade their defense as they got torched in the playoffs by the Jaguars. I think they put up, 45-something points or something like that. It was ridiculous. Their defense was just awful in that game. So adding another linebacker, I think, to replace Ryan Shazier, who's recovering from that spinal injury. We don't know who's going to play again, unfortunately. I think that's a must, as well as getting younger at the safety position. Those are two of the biggest needs for the Steelers in their defense. So with the 28th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to select Leighton Vander Esch, linebacker out of Boise State. While Vander Esch is not as fast as Shazier was as a player, Vander Esch has the ability to still make an instant impact in both the passing game and the running game. He's got a great mix of size and athleticism that can be coached up to be a Pro Bowl level playmaker for a defense that desperately needs one. And this will instantly, I think, improve the defense overall, as there is some talent in that front seven, and Vander Esch would just add, another element to that defense in the front seven, just improving it overall. So moving on to 29, the Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock. When I look at the Jaguars' needs, they need to get better along the offensive line. That could be a move for the Jaguars here. It appears that they're committed to Blake Bortles for some reason long term. I don't know why, but they could also elect to draft a developmental quarterback prospect. But like I said, it appears that they're committed to Bortles long term, so they may wait until maybe the mid rounds to draft a quarterback if they decide to go that direction. I still can't believe they extended Bortles. That's just incredible to me. But with Allen Robinson also leaving in free agency, there also is now a need at wide receiver as well. So with the 29th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to select DJ Moore, wide receiver out of Maryland. Moore is another weapon that can be added to this offense to help Bortles out. Moore doesn't necessarily take the top of a defense with his vertical speed, but he is very elite after the catch. So I feel like with picking DJ Moore here, the Jaguars could run a lot of short passes as a way to kind of limit the chances of Bortles turning the ball over in the passing game, where they can kind of throw screens, slants, rub routes to DJ Moore, and just let him get the ball in space after the catch and see what he can do with the ball, rather than forcing Bortles to kind of throw the ball more down the field, where that could lead to some turnover problems. So I think that would be a pretty good pick for the Jaguars. Moving on to 30, the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock. And the Minnesota Vikings, they really don't have any pressing immediate needs on their roster. I think they might be the best roster in the NFL. But I think one place where they can get better is along the offensive line to help out Kirk Cousins, who they just signed. They could also get younger along the defense and add some more depth there. But I think overall they're in a very great spot to be just a team that can go best player available here. So with 30th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings are going to select Isaiah Wynn, offensive guard out of Georgia. Wynn adds a very versatile player along their offensive line for the Vikings, who can play multiple positions across the board for their offensive line. Wynn is both strong in the running game and the passing game, and will instantly add depth, competition to this offensive line, and may push for a starting spot as the offseason kind of works its way out. For me, he was the best player available, and I think that's the spot where the Vikings would be very interested in adding more offensive line depth to their team to help out Kirk Cousins. And with the 31st pick, the New England Patriots are now on the board. The Patriots already addressed their quarterback of the future, trading up to get Lamar Jackson in my mock draft. They could also look to get an offensive playmaker in this draft, but will likely do that later in the draft because they've shown the ability to kind of get later round, mid-round guys, and Tom Brady can make them look a lot better than they actually are. With Nate Solder leaving in free agency to the Giants, there's also a big glaring need at offensive tackle. Unfortunately, they're in a situation where this draft is extremely weak in offensive tackle players. So they could also go defense here as well, because in general, they need to just work on getting a better pass rusher, more athletic guys along that front seven, and cornerback with Malcolm Butler leaving. They could get an upgrade at cornerback as well. So with the 31st pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, I have the New England Patriots selecting Taven Bryan, defensive lineman out of Florida. And Bryan is a very versatile playmaker that Bill Belichick will just love to play all over the place along his defensive front. We know that Bill Belichick loves his versatile hybrid defensive front schemes. And Bryan is the kind of the perfect player to match that defensive philosophy. He will need to get coached up, but with Belichick being one of the best in the business at doing that, I think Bryan could absolutely reach and maybe go above and beyond his ceiling, which is already pretty high in New England, to be a destructive force for the New England's defense. So the last pick in the first round, we're finally there, guys. At the 32nd pick, the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. And really the Eagles, they're one of, if not the most loaded roster in the entire NFL. I mean, they have no needs, basically. When I look at their entire roster, they could maybe go get another playmaker to help Carson Wentz at wide receiver or running back, because you can never have too many weapons for your young franchise quarterback, obviously. And also getting some younger depth at linebacker and defensive back could help them as well, but they're pretty set there overall. I mean, this is a very good roster. So the draft here, it's more of just more the rich get richer, basically, here in the draft here for the Eagles. So with the final pick in the first round in the 2018 NFL draft, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Sony Michel, running back out of Georgia. Sony Michel is a very versatile playmaker at the running back that can make an immediate impact in the Eagles running back rotation that they like to utilize. He can catch it out of the backfield. He can run in between the tackles. He's a very good north-south runner. And for me, it was just a situation of best player available, kind of similar to the Vikings, where I feel like the Eagles are just going to look to get the best player here and kind of roll with that. And it kind of fits a need here because they did need to add another running back with LeGarrette Blount, now leaving for Detroit. So getting another running back for that running back rotation, I mean, the rich get richer here. Sony Michel will be a dynamic player in that offense, I think. So with that pick, that wraps up my mock drafts for the 2018 NFL draft. It's been really fun kind of putting all these videos out there for the pre-draft process leading up to the NFL draft, which is only coming up on Thursday in a couple of days. I'm super excited. So let me reiterate, I will divide these up into 3 different videos for you guys. So don't worry. And, man, I can't wait for the draft. It cannot come any quicker. So, man, I'm just pumped for it. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Do you think I'm completely insane with this mock draft here? How do you think the quarterbacks will work out? Are there any other trades that you think will go on? And do you think I got it right? I think it'll be very fun to kind of compare what I thought was going to happen and what will actually happen in the upcoming NFL draft after the fact. So, yeah, just let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about this mock draft. And, of course, please leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks, guys, for watching.